You're listening to the Slog Pod. If you've ever justified something shady with, it's for my mental health, you're in the right place.
Today, we're going to explore the deep psychological and cultural drive to curate truth, control perception, and build narratives, even when they're wrong. Why do we resist reality? And what does it cost us? Have you ever caught yourself explaining something to someone and halfway through you realize you weren't describing what actually happened? You were describing what you wished had happened.
That's not lying, that's survival. That's how we shape reality to stay safe, I think.
Today, we're going to unpack this. We're going to unpack one of the deepest human drives we have, and that is to shape, bend, and control reality.
So why we shape reality? Let's start here. Everyone shapes reality. It's not a glitch, it is the default. The question isn't if you do it, but why do you do it? So we're all doing it.
I think we shape reality to avoid pain, most often, to preserve our identity, to protect the connections we have. Telling the whole truth, we fear it might fracture something, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even a sense of self.
So it's that emotional self-defense. And it works right up until it doesn't.
So how do we shape our reality?
On a daily basis?
What are some of the things we do? Explaining something to someone, but we're not saying what actually happened. We're just saying what we wish to happen. So maybe we were in a fight with someone and we're talking about how the fight went, and we're retelling in a way that we are the victim, the hero.
We're downplaying your stress at work to tell yourself that you're in control.
Convincing ourselves that the system is just fine, because to actually challenge it, we might risk our job or our sanity. And I don't think it's always malicious. Sometimes it's just the easy way out. It's easier to tell the story that doesn't make us the bad guy or the failure. Yeah. It's just easier.
You got to be the hero of your story.
Humans, we tend to favor the easiest path.
As I think too, there's organizational examples like companies saying we're like family while they're probably laying people off, that sort of thing.
Going down the list. All right, who's getting cut?
Yeah, but we're family. Or leaders reframing feedback as maybe misalignment instead of facing toxic behavior, sort of thing.
And the thing we always make fun of is employee wellness initiatives that just flat out ignore the fact that the system is overworking us.
Yeah. So shaping reality isn't just individual, it's institutional. It's baked into the language we use and the things we refuse to name. There's psychological roots behind this too, correct?
Cognitive dissonance. Facts don't match identity. We change the facts.
Yeah.
It doesn't support this picture or this heroic archetype that I'm trying to make myself out to be. I'll just change the facts to make me that.
Recently, we've talked about confirmation bias, which we interpret reality in a way that affirms what we already believed. We just find a way to tell ourselves that we're right in thinking that, and we do it again and again.
One of my most frequent issues with this is the social pressure, that sense of belonging. Like, I'll literally adjust my version of reality just to stay in the group. I don't want to be the outcast.
And maybe a last one, that narrative coherence. We prefer that simplest story, even if it's not true. There's something about humans that we just seek simplicity. True or not, doesn't matter. We want simple to be able to understand.
At the end of the day, reality is inconvenient. It's really complicated. It's complex, and we hate that. We hate complexity.
Yeah, so we basically simplify, we sanitize, we select what works for us, what fits, what's going to reinforce, all that.
Yeah. But that can backfire. It works until it doesn't. So what are some of those costs when the reality gets distorted and we start telling that lie?
Let's start with trust. Again, lost trust. That seems first and foremost. When that reality is changed to fit, we lose the trust and everybody sees it differently. And yeah, that seems an obvious one. What else?
I would say internal dissonance. Just, that sucks. I hate that feeling. It burns me the heck out. Just, I don't like to have that feeling. So I'd rather just lie to myself and create something that isn't there because it just feels better.
Sure. I'm thinking things too. Decisions that are mismatched or aren't in agreement, that sort of thing. I think the changing of reality, that hooks that up too. Same thing.
What do you mean by that?
I just mean that decisions don't align between me and others or whatever that is, that we're, it's easier to change the reality to make that fit.
So almost like trying to find some harmony
Yes.
in some way
You got it.
that's ultimately based on a distorted reality that we've created.
That we've created.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think when we all do that, it creates cultural confusion because now is anybody
Yeah.
living in reality if we're
Yeah.
all doing that as
You've
we've
taken
seen-
away truth. You've taken away trust. You've taken away what could be true. We're on pretty shaky ground, it seems. That, and yeah, I think you're right. That cultural confusion is absolutely something that's probably happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What the hell is going on? What are we even doing?
So the longer you avoid reality, the more reality shows up like a wrecking ball.
Yeah. And it is a son of a, yeah. You know, I don't, as I think about it, I don't know that people necessarily burn out because they're weak. They just are performing a reality that isn't real. That takes
Yeah.
a lot of work. We think it's easier. It feels easier. It may be more harmonious and consonant with everything around us, but over time, man, that can really weigh us down. That's an immense burden to always be living a fake reality.
Yeah.
And it certainly isn't healthy.
I'm thinking of, again, organizational pieces of trying to, the reality isn't that you're doing really well, but everybody's saying you're doing well, or you're telling yourself you're doing well, or you're a leader and you're twisting what that is to be doing well. And you're trying to sell that to everybody that those are your outcomes, even when they're not. It seems like it's occurring all the time.
Yeah. What about like in the political realm?
Well, yeah, that's, you're being sold it all the time. We talk about social media, we talk about media, we talk about the politics, politicians, and it seems that, especially in our macro culture right now, that alternate reality, alternative facts, we're being sold that every single day in every way. People are twisting things and they're doing it to support their narrative, not truth. They're supporting their thought. And that is one heck of a way to twist reality.
Yeah. And then that twisted or distorted reality then becomes ours because we just accept it.
If we accept it.
If we accept it.
If we accept it. But that's the drag, right? That's the rub.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I'm trying to find a way not to, or at least to identify when that's happening and to brush it off, or at least to know so that I can make correct decisions.
Yes. And that, I think, at its core, that is the slog.
That is the slog. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's hard.
So how do we loosen that grip on our narrative or change that so that reality isn't being necessarily, I don't know, that we're not driving it into the ground or trying to form it in only our way? We're identifying when others are just forming it in their way. Because it sounds like we're coming to the conclusion that it's unhealthy. That forming, that number one, it happens. It's a very normal thing that we all are acting on that, forming our own realities, or trying to sell that reality to others at all times, where a lot of people are. And of course, that lies on a continuum too. But if that's happening, that is probably not truth, and that ultimately that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Is that the thought process we're going through here?
I think so. And I think as far as remedies go or things we can do to start fixing that in ourselves is just like with a lot of things, we have to give it some time. Practicing slow truth, I guess you could say. Allowing the discomfort, sitting in it for a minute before we are getting in a hurry to try to reframe it. Because we went into just another distortion or whatever. Like it takes some time.
Yeah.
It's not just like you flip a switch and you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. That goes to me is the therapy thing again, that it's sitting in it, that you got to allow yourself time to change that, to identify that you're doing it or identify that you're hearing it, what to do with it, and that knowing why, but allowing that discomfort. I like that, allowing the discomfort, because I think we do become more okay with it. The more we think about it, the more you said slow truth. So it allows it to simmer. I think that if it's not slow, if you're not allowing it, the responses we've talked about, we just brought up cognitive dissonance. It's that push away, instant push away. So I think if it's slower, if it's easier, it gives it a second to take hold that reality is being manipulated.
Yeah. And that really sucks when we have that realization. So would it be fair to say maybe we give ourselves time to mourn the loss or the passing of that false reality that
Yeah.
we're creating? Because I catch myself often missing it.
Yeah.
Man, I wish that really was true. I wish I wasn't the bad guy here.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
I think about my relationship with my family and friends and times I've been a real turd.
Yeah.
And as I think about it and try to avoid being the bad guy, I'll tell myself or I'll make up ways that I wasn't. And when I catch myself doing it, then I feel bad about that. And that's a crappy feeling. But I think you're right. You have to give it time.
As you're talking too, I'm thinking about it's not that you're the bad guy necessarily, but there's components in there. There's a nuance to that. There's a balance to be had. And it's okay to say, I am somewhat bad, or that reality I created was to make myself the hero. It's not true. And though I'm not all bad. I think people, and I'm saying that because we've discussed previously that polarized thought process. And I feel that's an easy slide to slide down one side or the other. And so when you start saying things like, I am bad, I think we're less apt to adjust as we're talking about that reality piece. I think we're less apt as humans to really adjust to something if we go down to that polarized thought.
Yeah. Because we have a limited range of options at that point. It's really one of two things, and that's
right.
There's
You're
so
all
many
good or
ways
you're all
to-
bad, and that's not true.
yeah, or
That's
this
not
is how I see it, but I have to know that's not the whole. I'm not seeing it all.
Yes, absolutely.
I might be wrong about myself.
Yeah, I like to hear that's that language you're creating to make it okay.
Yeah, we're normalizing
Yeah,
being complicated and nuanced.
yeah. Yeah, that again, the slog, right? This is what we're talking about all the time, is that nuance, holding all of it, weighing it correctly, not distorting that reality, but weighing it accurately so we can see it clearly, right? This is how I see it, but I know it's not the whole thing, or this is the whole thing. What does that consist of? Creating space for others' realities within that, right? Even when they challenge yours, to find ways to put that into that narrative that you're writing. So rather than just playing out and slamming your reality down other people's throats, to allow theirs in there. Now we're back into that systems thinking again, challenging your own. And that's hard because that dissonance comes in again. But when you create space that allows their reality to mix with your reality, and now we're able to more accurately identify those thoughts.
Yeah, the accuracy part, because now we have more information,
Right.
and we've created space for that.
Right. And I think I just implied a poor outcome there, and that you're not getting an accurate reality. And that again, that leads to poor decisions, poor belief, bad outcomes, wrong distort. Right.
And so, like we always say, ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit easier to stomach
Yeah.
or to take. Maybe we just ask ourselves, what part of this version of the story I'm telling is designed to protect me? Am I doing some type of self-insulation here?
Yeah.
What parts of the story might I be avoiding? There's always another side to a story.
I love this because now you're creating metacognition, that self-awareness, and you're identifying what are the influences behind my reality.
Right.
Was I conditioned to think that way? What influenced me to drive that reality? Should that be there? Now we're asking lots of questions. So I like that.
I like it too, because now I'm, instead of saying I'm the villain, or maybe I'm the bad guy here, I'm actually saying, no, it's both.
It's both.
I'm a lot of
Likely
things.
both.
There's a lot going on here. I'm a mess.
Yeah.
A mess of tangled thoughts and whatever.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because I'm human. I'm human.
Yeah.
And humans, we're deeply flawed creatures, but we're also capable of some amazing things. But we have to take the time. We have to engage in the slog to get there.
Yeah.
And to start seeing.
Now you're describing that fluidity of thought again.
Yeah.
And that's good.
I know you're a big fan of fluidity.
We all should be. Not going to sway away from that. I think it's arguably one of the most important things that we should know about in life. And that should be one of those values that we hold dearly, is that I'm striving to find flexibility constantly.
Yeah.
Not only am I asking the questions of what are my influences or what drove me, shaped me to think this, or what is my conditioning around this. But once I grab that, I need to be able to do something with it. And that's that fluidity. That's that flexibility. So that's why I'm constantly selling that. And as you pointed out, being the villain or being the hero, right? We don't shape reality because we're bad people. I think we're doing it because it helps us cope. That's one of our mechanisms. And some people do it much more than others, some people much less. But sometimes the cost of shaping that reality is disconnection. It's disconnection from ourselves, it's disconnection from others, it's disconnection from what's real. And I'm always looking for that poor outcome, and that is it, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a bad outcome, that disconnection. We get isolated, and then there's less exposure at that point because we're just in our own heads. And I know my head's a pretty scary place to be.
Yeah, less understanding, less empathy. You name it, the list goes on.
Yeah. So understanding that we all do this, it's hardwired into us. Maybe it's then that the work isn't about stopping the shaping of reality, because we're human, that's what we do. Maybe it's just more about noticing when we're doing, catching ourselves, having that self-awareness and asking, who is this narrative serving?
I think it's oftentimes, probably most often, serving you.
Just me.
It can be serving those you're allied with. It can be serving your interests. I think that there's a lot of nuance to that too, because serving you can mean lots of things.
Sure.
It can be serving your company. It can be serving your thought. It can be serving people nearest to you. I can think of many things that it could be serving, but I think that's, you just hit the jackpot on trying to figure out what's going on. And that's that digging deeper, right? Notice when you're doing it, that self-awareness. We're constantly going back to the self-awareness piece.
Yeah.
At least it seems we are.
It's such a foundational thing to have self-awareness. Most of what we talk about requires it to some degree. And I know that's tough.
It
It
is.
can be real tough to be self-aware, because when we are self-aware, that implies that there's some honesty, that we're looking at ourselves objectively, and that can hurt.
Why can it hurt?
Why?
Yeah.
Because now it's starting to challenge this identity that we're building or fashioning or creating, and that sucks.
So keep going. I'm asking you to play through that narrative that you're saying. So it's, okay, so you feel the pain.
I feel
So what do you do it? So I'm asking you to play out the rest of that story. You feel it. What do you do with that then? Because now the next chance or the next choice you're making is you're changing or not changing that belief. Because did it really hurt? I don't know that it did. And if you're changing a belief, if it's for the right things, if it's for something healthier, then you need to be able to say it's for something healthier. Following me?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't want people to end on it hurts to do it, because I think a lot of people shut down if they feel that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get through to the end of that game to know that, no, the hurt, if you're going to say that, you need to say it provides a better outcome. It provides transparency. It provides clarity, truth. It provides a better information for my decision making.
It gives me a better chance to be healthier, start being healthier.
Yes. And I would argue too, as talking about this, you're redeveloping your values, those foundational beliefs. And I think those foundational beliefs for everyone, as we're throwing this out into the nether, is how should you view reality? Should you be shaping it every day? Or is there truth to that? Is reality reality? And what is best for all of us? For all of us, not just for us as individuals, but for our nation, for our systems, for our organizations. Is it? I think the question is, and going back to a fundamental value that maybe I hold, this is a belief, but it's a belief that we should be seeking truth, that clarity, regardless. Reality, is it different for all of us, or should we be selling that to people? I don't know that we should.
So in other words, who wouldn't necessarily as you characterized it, ram our reality down everyone else's
Yes.
for whatever reason.
You're doing that because of those influences and your interest
Yeah.
that you have. And I don't know that's, again, is that healthy? It doesn't seem it to me.
Yeah. And certainly it ignores that there's a collective shared interest we
Yes.
have in not doing that and being more really real, if that makes any sense.
So I'm valuing those systems. I'm valuing as much or more than I'm valuing my own influence.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's what we'd ask our listeners is think about your beliefs and your version of reality currently and ask, are there things that I've been telling myself that might be outdated, distorted, or inherited? I forced down
Conditioned.
my throat.
Influenced.
Yeah.
I like that. So yeah, anybody, if you've got something that you're thinking about, with a lot of this is we're asking you to jump into the slog. We're fighting to figure this out. That is our slog. That is TJ and I's slog, is to fight to figure this out. I'm asking him to find that out for me. I hope he's asking that of me. And that is our slog. And it's not easy, but it can be fulfilling, enjoyable, it shows clarity. And I think that we're trying to create a culture that drives that, aren't we?
Yes. Yes. Because I don't feel like we're there.
No, not even close.
Not
I think,
even-
as a matter of fact, we've been going the opposite way. And this trying to frame your own reality and everybody trying to, especially certain people, trying to force it down everyone's throats that this is a reality. I think that's incredibly unhealthy and we need to do something about it. Let us know your thoughts. Reach out to us, admin@theslogco.com. We'd love to hear from you. But again, that's why we're doing this. Reach out. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it together.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
See you next time.
Cheers.